Hi again. Yes, I'm back. I'm back. I'm gonna do about my grandmother. I have to. It's Windrush. I have to talk about her because if I don't talk about her, I will not be happy with myself. Well, my grandmother was a total warrior. She brought me up from baby. Um, she was the caregiver. The reasons why she ended up being the caregiver, I will not go into, is because kind of deep. She was a minister of the church. She literally had to, them days, you couldn't have a child and be wearing a collar at the same time. Um, so, um, so basically, right, she grew me from birth. So I have pictures of her from her young days. She was literally like an Eastern star. She was part of a movement as well. So I'm going to show her pictures of her in her finest, basically. This is my grandmother. Oh yeah, the bottom was my mother, by the way. So my grandmother, she was part of the lodge, as you can see, and there's one where she's older. I mean, she's dead now, but she was actually running a whole church to herself. She literally ran a whole church. She was running a whole church, and she was an SCN nurse. She used to be the nurses from the Windrush. So she went through a whole heap. So I kept hearing this one story she always used to tell about when she was a nurse. She was busy doing something at the time, and somebody lifted up her skirt or dress, I think it was, to check to see if she had a tail. And she literally had to tell him where to go, whatever. She said she had lots of white people pulling at her to find out where she have a tail, or she'll go to do the bedpans and they will sling shit in her face. She One time she was walking somewhere, and like, if you know about the teddy boys used to be the terror of England. There was like the the what you call it, the far right at the time. So she was walking, and then some other black men saw her, and they asked her if she was all right, and she said yeah. But she said that she went through a lot of things as well, even becoming an archabbess of a church, because she was also running a spiritual Baptist church. So she was running the spiritual Baptist church as well. If I can get it up. Can never see the thing I'm doing. So let's stop it so I can get it. Yeah, so she basically was like the head of the church. She had loads of jealous people who was jealous because of her status. She also was one of the first black women to be an archabbess in England as well, because there was quite a few of them from what I've seen come online. So my grandmother had a lot to fulfill, especially in that role as I'll say an archabbess, a spiritual woman of the cloth or whatever. So basically, what she used to do, she used to take off her collar so that she can look after me as a baby, because them days it wasn't heard of a woman wearing like their collars them times. So she had to sacrifice being an archabbess for a bit so that she can look after me. She also, because I had eczema and asthma, I was, as she termed, I was a very sickly child. So she had to deal with all that as well, which means looking after the sores when the skin peeled off. how she would look after me and make sure I'm okay and all that stuff. So I'm trying to see if I can get another picture. So see, she was also the head of all. See, and that's my mum sitting between me and her and my cousin. So I'm going to show you a picture of her. She's a spiritual Baptist woman. She was very, very stern. She'll bring any adult to her levels, basically. They felt like a little baby after being around her. And she had a stern, not only was she stern in her stance, she was stern in her spirituality as well. So she, I would say, was definitely a warrior type woman. She didn't stand for no rubbish at all. She did not stand for the rubbish, even until she got ill. Anyway, the scenario of how she got ill now, apparently, well, she asked for tea and somebody put poison in the sugar. So she said to me, can you go make me a cup of tea or whatever. They put caustic soda in the sugar. So she ended up drinking the sugar and it made her really ill. In doing that, it brought on her dementia and all sorts. She started forgetting who people was and all sorts of things. So though she was the one of the family, she was the head of the family. She would run everything. Everybody will come to her for advice. Everybody in the community, especially the part of Trinidad where we were living in Arima, they will come to her for advice and stuff like that. She was very much respected where she walked. I mean, now, like, if people talk about her now, I will feel that they would probably say the good and bad of her, both sides of her. But she is definitely in I would say, the levels of what you call it, the levels of respect her as well. She didn't take, like I said, she didn't suffer foods gladly, whether it was her family or strangers. She'll like, you give it to her, she'll give it back to you. She's one of them. She's a very, very, I would say, a hot-blooded Trinidadian woman. So how she's standing there in her spiritual clothes, because the spiritual Baptist, like I said, she run the church. The one peeking over her shoulder is my mother. So our family is very much very mixture of everything, as you can see. So we also have a lineage as well, which is very prominent in our family too. So my grandmother, like I said, she ran things. She didn't make things run. She had always had a way of making money. She was always working. Even when she wasn't working, she'd be doing something else. If she wasn't doing something else, she'd be traveling. Every year she'd be traveling backwards and forwards, went to Iceland, Florida, France. She traveled a lot. So my grandmother was no person like to say, well, like she had goals and ambitions and stuff. And those are my uncles, of course. And you see my cousin who looks very Indian. Cause we have a lot of Indians blood in our family. And there's a lot of Portuguese. They have, I think it's Portuguese or something in them, because they all had freckles. All my uncles had freckles. So my grandmother was obviously like very strong, even to the end. She fell in the hospital as well, in one of the hospice or the places where she was, and her femur was injured. So all that strength she had, she really slimmed down to a little old lady, unrecognizable even. Even I didn't recognize her. So at one point, she was also one. Even though she was ill, she would sit in the chair. She would just be singing to herself gospel songs, and she'd just be rocking and singing to herself. Sometimes she talk about her past, dementia, to send them back to their past and all that. So she'll be talking about all that naturally, going up hills and all this stuff. She had a very much what you call it, a liking for people. She met a lot of people. I mean, the same people that I grew up with, I haven't seen, but it's more like an extended family. So she was one of the ones who'll be the ones on the front line as well. She'll probably be the ones who'll be telling people off. She'll be the one bringing a grown man to a child. So very deep lady, you know. So this is why I thought, let me talk about her, talk about what she did for in England, which is, like I said, she was an SCN nurse, which they recruited her from Trinidad. They brought her over here probably before or after the Windrush. So she was here during all the Windrush. She saw a lot. She spoke about a lot of stuff. And people's jealousy, obviously, they want to be in her position. So So to me, I always think about my grandmother. So to me, I will put her on my channel because she is one of those people who didn't stand for nothing. You don't tell her what to do. She'll tell you what to do. She's one of them people. So yeah. So with that said, I think I said a lot. I don't want to mumble. I know it seemed like I rushed through what I'm saying, but I'm not rushing through. The main point is that how you see her in her whites, how strong she looked to how she looked now, a withered little old lady, her strength, but she has strength because it was in her eyes, you know, so, and there's a little of her in me, I would say, but in little parts. So, yeah, so that's all I'm going to say because I know this would probably be a short one, but, you know, that's how it goes sometimes. So with that said, I'm gonna come off. I'm gonna end this live because it's a short live. I'm doing short lives, isn't it? So with that said, have a good day, have a good afternoon, and take care. And um, so maybe other people can talk about their parents and what they did for them, because over here in England, right, they got this thing called Ancestors Day, which they remember their parents and all that. So I chose to remember my grandmother, really. So she's died a long while now, but she's still part of me in it. So with that said, I'm gonna come off and leave it at that. Please like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.